And we're live.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I made the comment whenever I was showing this to one of my coworkers who listens to a lot of Joe Rogan that I've been incepted because he starts off his podcast by saying hello, everyone, or hello, everybody.
It's your boy.
It's your boy. Blow it out for everybody there. So this is episode 2 from the new location.
Correct. I already broke it.
My notepad broke. Episode 2 from the new location. Dee's new apartment. Live in Addison. What episode is this? Episode 6, I believe.
I'm pretty sure you're making up numbers at this point.
Well, I could say 67 or even greater, but we're going to go ahead and say episode 6, even though the first 4 are in unreleased formats, essentially. But, yeah, this is the first Monday recording.
On a weekday. Also something unique about this.
We did a Tuesday before. The one that we did at my new apartment.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It was on a Tuesday because you had that Wednesday off.
Yeah, that's right. It's the initial day. But we're also very, very sober.
Very sober. So this is recording number 1 of Sober December, or semi-sober December as I'm calling it, because it's not exactly the full month of December, but it is a full month.
We cheated ahead a couple days.
So that we can drink around Christmas, because Lord knows we both need that.
Yeah, and we might not last through this podcast more or less 4 weeks, but we're trying for 4.
We're gonna try. The stakes are high, at least in reward, because this man likes totals.
And I forgot what I was already pledging you.
I think a nice mechanical RGB keyboard.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Nice K70. Is that what you have? A Corsair?
I think so. It's a K. I think it's a K70. It's that line though.
That keyboard, yeah. Basically. And then somebody brought up a good punishment. So we're going positive and negative reward on this endeavor. So the negative for me would be I have to shave my beard off.
See, and that's where I was gonna just buzz my head. Same thing. We'll see.
The unique facial hair features that we each have.
Yeah.
We'll see. So far, we're about 48 hours in.
Yeah.
36
right.
hours.
Sort of. We drank it to the wee hours Saturday evening because of circumstances. But it's already tough. I think the 2 biggest things that are going to be a problem for us, it's not necessarily physical addiction. It's boredom and stress from work. Those Absolutely. 2. Which are what, essentially the reasons why we started drinking to begin with. At least continued.
Life is more fun when you're drunk, and life is less stressful when you're drunk.
Yeah.
Or it's easy to forget about how much work sucks and how bored you are when you're drunk.
It's just such a damn habit.
It really is. And I'm looking forward to this. I think it'll be good for both of us, but at the same time, man, I want a scotch right now.
So do I.
Work sucks.
And we're also trying to kind of lose weight, and that's funny enough, it's on the back burner because it's harder for us it's easier for us than not drinking.
I think us not drinking and then having a conscious effort towards eating a little bit healthier, we're going to lose weight this month.
We'll see.
The amount of beer that we both drink is on par with a high school senior, or not a high school, sorry, a college senior.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
So,
and, yeah. But anyway,
on to the show. So I had a couple of notes that I've written down over the past week, and I know that you had a couple of things that you wanted to talk about. Do you want to start with old boys?
Sure.
How about them Cowboys?
It's going from bad to worse.
It's a tough thing.
We can just play Johnny Cash right now, the way that the year's going.
Somebody said that if we win out, we can make the playoffs. Like, if you're at the point where you have to win out and you've lost the last 3 games, you might as well just give it up.
And it's not even December yet.
It's not even December. One thing I did notice, the Cowboys cut ties with Darren McFadden.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they cut him, I think, either this morning or last night.
I mean, to be fair, I like the guy. He didn't dress at all this year. I mean, he might have dressed for one game. I take that back.
According to the ticket ticker, he played 1 snap this season.
Did he? I mean,
which is not fair to him.
When you look at it objectively, it's tough. Like, we signed this guy. He had a 1,000-yard rushing year. By all means, he had a good year. And then 2 things happened. We signed Alfred Morris from free agency, who also had to be a little bit pissed even if he doesn't say anything. And then we signed Zeke. And say what you will about Zeke, he is an awesome player, probably one of the best running backs in our league right now. But you've got 2 veteran running backs, one of which already played a season behind this line and didn't do a bad job by all means. And now he's barely even putting pads on. So it's tough. But there's some questions on whether we really need a running back of all of our needs at the time.
Yeah. I think the only thing that kept this season from being absolutely disastrous is because we had Alfred Morris. I mean, it is disastrous, but it could be like, 0-16 bad without the running game.
Right.
Because there's one thing that's really getting exposed with all this controversy around Zeke and who's starting at running back is that Dak may not be as good of a quarterback as last season led us to believe.
So this week, of the 3, we had a significant, it looks like an upgrade in that we got Tyron back. And so you thought maybe some of those issues that we're running into with the previous weeks would go away with an actual lineman on our left side. And he made bad decisions, he made bad plays, he made bad throws. It's a little alarming right now. There was the debate at the beginning of the year, would you take Carson Wentz or Dak? And there was an entertaining conversation for both, even though I probably still would have leaned towards Carson Wentz myself.
Yeah.
But now you got people talking about whether Cooper Rush should start games and whether there should be an actual competition next year. I don't think it's quite that bad, but there's definitely some adjustments that he's not making, or maybe there's a little bit of a regression. We saw him play really well against Denver.
Yeah.
Thought he had a hell of a game against Denver. And now it just, I'm not sure if he's just dependent on Zeke being back there, because Morris isn't doing a terrible job. So
yeah.
Either way, it looks like the season's all but over. I mean, there's still a chance.
There is still a chance. What's the world card looking?
The world card?
Sorry, wild card.
I'm not sure. I should have pulled up the stats, but either way,
I don't think we have a shot at that, do we? I mean, the way they're playing, unless they win out, they're not making the playoffs. Is really the truth. And to touch on people saying that Cooper Rush should start are the same type of people that were saying that Tony Romo should get benched.
Absolutely.
In his prime. It's not necessarily, well, in this case, I don't know if it's Dak's fault or not. I unfortunately did not get to watch very closely this past week, but your starting quarterback is your starting quarterback, and putting in a second string or third string really is what Cooper Rush, in my opinion, is. It is not the solution unless they're both equally as good. And as me calling into question how good Dak is doesn't mean that I think that our second string, there's a reason why he's first string and Cooper Rush is second string. The problems are not necessarily based on the quarterback. It's, play calling and defense and things of that nature. I don't know. It's disheartening because going into the season, we had high hopes and, the questions around Zeke and all that. And what are we at week 11 now?
Yeah.
Week 11.
Week 12 just finished up.
Okay. And we're 2 games without Zeke?
Yeah.
So we got 4 left, 5 games left. So we'll have 1. He'll come back for the Eagles game, barring any sort of weird injunction.
I mean, it definitely brings back the conversation again. Should he have just gone with that damn suspension? You've got this disruption in the middle of the year during the hardest part of the season for us schedule-wise.
Yeah.
It's tough. And you also got the conversation of, did we make our franchise quarterback retire too damn early for this?
Yeah, we did.
I mean, it definitely feels like that. And not so much just because he's doing poorly, but There's no telling whether Tony would have lasted through week 1. He probably would have got hurt at some point. Poor guy.
That's always was my contention about Romo for the last 3 years. Even when he was playing well, he's one tackle away from being out for the season.
His collarbone's made out of Funyuns at this point.
And his back is made out of glass. It's just, it's tough, but as soon as it breaks, it shatters.
But, if he lasts you through week 3, and then you have a perfectly, what we think is a capable backup that's ready to come in, instead of, now we've got Cooper Rush back there, and, maybe Tony makes some magic happen, and he's through most of those games. I don't know if Tony would have lasted with those hits that Dak got against Atlanta. I imagine he wouldn't. That being said, you could count on Tony for winning you 1 or 2 games that you shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, and I think Jason Garrett, give him a little bit of credit. If you have glassback Romo behind that line, he might have maybe called more pass protection.
I wouldn't give him credit. I don't think he makes those changes.
Oh, hindsight's 20/20, but I want to think that he would do that. But again, it's irrelevant. That's an alternate universe sort of discussion, right? Because Dak is our quarterback.
He is, and hopefully Jason Garrett's not our coach.
Agreed. Maybe that's what Jason Witten should do instead of the rumors of him going to coach Tennessee. Just have him take over as coach of the Cowboys.
But he doesn't say anything. He just walks up, pulls the clipboard out of out of the clappers, and then just slowly nods towards the field and starts pointing. And then
he just pulls it out of his hands, looks at him, nods at him to get off the field, and then looks at the offense, and they go out there. Does it mid game. Takes his helmet off, puts his hat on, puts a coach jacket on.
He takes Jason Garrett's hat and puts it on just to rub it in a little bit more.
And then Jerry shows up midway through the next quarter, and Jason just kind of looks at him too.
I mean, they're Jasons. That's enough for Jared.
That is enough for Jerry. And he's been his Papa John boy. Or no, what was Jason Witten? Albertsons was always his sponsor of choice.
That's about it. That's all I have for the Cowboys. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
It hurts. It hurts so much. Touch on some pop culture stuff that's been popping up here. I don't give a fuck about a royal wedding.
Nope. Especially the second born.
Yeah, so this one is not, unless something were to happen to Charles, William, I don't know, the older brother.
Harry's the young one. Harry's the one getting hitched.
Yeah. But, I mean, this happened, wasn't there a royal wedding 2-3 years ago, and everybody was all about it, and they were carrying it on all the American news networks. Why do we care? It's I get why England cares, because it's their figurehead, it's their people, traditions and all that sort of stuff, but why does America care? And I guess it goes back to the whole, oh my God. Sarah Huckabee Sanders just popped on the TV and is scary looking.
The people's eyebrow was up. Still there.
But the unfortunate circumstances with Princess Diana dying in a car crash and the media sensation and the whole paparazzi thing, which we were kind of young whenever that was going down, so I just remember bits and pieces. And then, I mean, the impact that had on pop culture, I think, really, really led to, at least, maybe not, because it's always been a thing of paparazzi, you're chasing them, and
yeah, I mean,
people care about the royals.
I get the whole William bit because he's probably going to be the king here someday. I don't know if Charles even does anything. He might relinquish it. That might have already happened. I don't care. That's why I don't pay attention to it. But with Harry, I guess it's kind of entertaining from a pop culture because he's kind of has a reputation as
party boy,
being kind of
a fun guy.
But that being said, who gives a fuck?
You know what the best part about the royal family of England?
What
is the Queen memes?
Yeah.
Whenever her grumpy faces and her at the 2012 Olympics.
Yeah.
What the internet did with all that stuff, that was the best part. I don't really care about the line of succession or a marriage, or I think it goes to the, oh, this is probably going to be sexist, but every woman's fantasy of wanting to be a princess.
Yeah.
Everybody has that dream, or not everybody, but a lot of women, a lot of girls grow up wanting to be princesses, and they're all princesses to their dad, and stuff like that. And then the one real chance that you have is like marrying a prince kind of thing. And so this in particular is an American. I was listening. Courtney was talking about it on the ticket, but she's an American actress who is half black, half African American, whatever the PC term is. So there's
so she's half black, half African American.
Yeah.
Okay.
Half black American. I don't know.
That,
she's American and she is black.
Okay.
Which are two very, very unusual things for a English royal family. These are all things that I've picked up listening to the radio and
there you go.
The last 30 minutes.
The one thing about the royal family is, we have all this pop culture right now and these idiots that get famous like the Kardashians and the royal family is kind of like I wouldn't say forced, but they're institutionalized celebrities. So they're always there from day one. So I get why maybe some people are attracted to a little bit because they're established. They're always going to be in pop culture.
Yeah. And I think there's actually some a lot of English or counterculture in the UK is a very anti-royal family and stuff, and there's some interesting level of politics that comes into it, even though the royal family really is a figurehead to England these days. But
I kind of wouldn't mind that in the US right now. Like you have the people that run the government and then a family of classically trained individuals that are trained from day one in etiquette and being good hosts that actually go meet these world leaders or stuff instead of other families.
What's there's like an etiquette training that like proper young ladies go through, and I guess probably young men as well as they're growing up, that they teach you how to use the right forks at dinner and to not burp and chew with your mouth closed.
So us being heathens, I came from a small town in West Texas, and my grandmother was kind of a socialite and kind of old fashioned, but whenever all the cousins would go up there for whatever reason at Christmas or whatever, we would eat with her. And on one occasion, the parents were out. It was just the grandchildren. And my grandmother took a stand. She was finally disgusted until we wouldn't leave the dinner table until we did everything politely and we learned our etiquette and we did everything correctly. And it was like a 3-hour dinner.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. My mom did a lot of that growing up, no elbows on the table, use your salad fork and stuff like that.
Pass to the left.
Yeah. Never pass the salt and pepper at the same time.
Separate,
that's considered rude.
Yeah.
All that fun stuff. That's interesting, but that kind of stuck with you, right? That one singular moment with your grandma.
Yeah, it was a war in the trenches.
Oh man, I can see that. That seems like an episode from like a sitcom.
Yeah.
West Texas
meets Country
New
Club,
World.
Wyoming.
Fucking James Comey.
Is that here we need?
He very much is the Dark Knight.
So that kind of segues us not so much into our topic, but kind of to get into the political sphere. We've had in the recent weeks, we've had this kind of mushroom of media information and stories surrounding the FCC and a decision that they've not quite made, but they've indicated that they're going to make it in the middle of December.
And did you, so they released it over, like, when the entirety of the country is basically on Thanksgiving break, which is, an automatic red flag whenever a government agency or somebody is doing something that they probably don't want a whole lot of attention on, is if they do it around a holiday, because a lot of people aren't paying attention. People are out of their normal routine. The olds aren't watching cable or watching the morning news, and, people may not be in front of their computers as often because they're out in front of family, hopefully. Yeah. So I mean that's a huge red flag to me, is whenever something goes down. But the
the whole controversy about this is kind of wrapped up in the net neutrality debate, which can be as simple and as you want to make it, or it can be as, in depth or politically charged as any possible subject. But the primary argument with net neutrality is that.
So can we say what the FCC indicated they were doing? Let's start.
Yeah. So the FCC indicated that they're going to roll back the Title II classification, and I can't remember what the name of the act was, but basically Obama era regulations that gave the FCC authority to classify ISPs as Title II.
Basically, in the same vein as a utility.
Yeah. Common carriers, I think, is what they called it, which the Title II classification was meant as a weapon against telecom, like telephone monopolies that existed in the 70s and 80s and 60s.
I think it was the early 30s where the Title II designation.
Yeah, okay. You're right.
This was a decision that was made by the FCC back in 2015.
Yeah.
And yeah.
To classify ISPs as Title II or common carriers, utilities essentially, and subject to the same regulations and enforcements as telephone companies, which at the time was celebrated as a huge win for proponents of net neutrality, because essentially it meant that the fuckery that was expected to happen from ISPs could not happen.
With that being the quote-unquote fast lanes,
yep,
with ISPs being able to essentially control what kind of information you were getting, maybe not so much information, what kind of websites and media you could access much quicker than others, such as at the time Netflix was getting throttled like crazy, YouTube, some of these companies where they didn't pay a premium to the ISPs, they could see their website and their product slow down.
Yeah. And so that's the whole, whenever you bring up net neutrality, it's about internet fast lanes, basically, and the people who control the internet giving preferential treatment for monetary compensation to companies that can afford it is really the dystopian future. Is basically, if you want to watch Netflix, you're going to have to pay an extra $5 a month. If you want to access Facebook, it's an extra $1 a month, those sorts of things, which is, the internet's, and by the internet, I'm talking about like the social uproar that came up about this. Their initial assumption is that Ajit Pai, I think is his name, is the new FCC the new chairman of the FCC, who was a Verizon lawyer that was appointed by Trump, who immediately came in and said, "I'm gonna get rid of this." And my initial reaction and the reaction of the
general public as a whole,
the internet masses, is that no, you're doing this because you're in the pocket of big ISPs. You're a shill for the corporate lobbying that got so many funded so many Republicans. And I mean, really, it is kind of bipartisan. You'll see ISPs fund both. Ooh, that was bad. Fund both Democrats and Republicans, but it is primarily Republicans that get it, because they're the party that it favors business and favors deregulation and that sort of thing.
And when you look at the general position that congressmen have towards just the concept of net neutrality, for or against, the againsts are almost vastly unanimous in the GOP. Hardly any, if any.
I don't know if there's that
Democrats.
many.
I think there were a couple in the House.
Yeah.
Democrats against net neutrality.
Yeah. And so it gets into this word game where, words like net neutrality and Open Freedom Act, or Open Internet Freedom Act or something like that is what they're calling this move back. And, I tried to look at this because whenever I see something that is so overwhelmingly going in one direction, like every post on Reddit, what was that, Wednesday last week?
Yeah.
Every post on Reddit was, save net neutrality, stop this, save net neutrality, stop this. But the thing that I was reading in the article that we were reading today was kind of pointing out that, we're just rolling back the regulations that were implemented in 2015 because there's a couple of problems with it. Now, the automatic assumption is that he's doing it so that ISPs can, start doing all their fuckery again. But there were certain safeguards and consumer protections, but basically the FCC in 2015, by enabling this act, rolled all that underneath their domain. So the FCC is the people who control.
Yeah. So let's talk about how the internet may have been before 2015.
So you will have there are cases of ISPs doing this stuff. I say cases because there are actual court cases of. There's the Netflix throttling thing that was happening in the mid 2010, 2011, 2012
Which
time.
is essentially Netflix did paid fees to Verizon to basically get their service back.
Yeah, because if they didn't, they essentially that was a very crucial time for Netflix, because that was whenever they were getting to their saturation point in the market, like where they became the dominant streaming service. They became Netflix as we know it today, which is a cultural icon essentially. So they had to pay, like their business model depended on them having fast and open connection. And so that is definitely something that needs to be protected against.
But before 2015, we also had the potential for 3 different agencies to quote unquote regulate the internet.
Yes.
So we had the FTC, which I believe was the most proactive about their investigations into ISP mismanagement. We had the FCC, which that didn't change. They still had control. They unanimously had control. They took over all jurisdiction. And then we had the Department of Defense, or Department of Justice, that could actually investigate as well. So you had 3 agencies that could police ISPs and investigate any kind of misdoings or wrongdoings by internet service providers. Whenever 2015 came, that all, as John said, rolled it up under the FCC's capabilities of investigating and policing the policy in hand.
Yeah. And I don't agree that was the correct move. I do think that you need a centralized authority that is governing the internet and consumer protection and all those things. Like there is, because of the economic concept of natural monopolies that come up whenever you have high infrastructure costs to get into a market, you'll have it's the same thing that happens with power companies and telephone companies, in that they have these huge capital investments that companies will make, and I'm gonna have to cut this part out because I'm getting in there.
So one argument that people have for net neutrality, and I bring it up not to change the subject, but to bring it back to kind of what John's saying. So with these alleged fast lanes, you have these smaller businesses, these smaller websites, the Amazons that may not have been able to budge into the market because the costs of trying to get into these fast lanes or trying to pay an ISP to provide an access to their product, it may not have been there. And I'm sorry, I forget his name all the time. FCC chairman's arguments is essentially the same thing, but for ISPs.
Ajit Pai.
Yeah, and that by removing the 2015 Act, you would have some of these providers and these other companies that could potentially expand and enter into markets where they're not already in, and so provide competition.
So that is the one thing that really Ajit Pai's stance on makes me think that he is a shill for ISPs, because I could be completely wrong with this, but sure, the reading that I was doing on it, by classifying them as Title II and public utilities, means that the investments that the ISPs have made into connections to homes and the actual physical infrastructure, by classifying them as Title II carriers, it means that it's a public good.
Right.
And so if it remains as Title II, while there's a lot more paperwork is what he's talking about, but that means that they have to give access to their power lines, to their fiber lines and whatnot, to competitors if they wanted to come in. So if an ISP wants to start up working in an area, when this came up with Google Fiber, who is not a small company,
Right.
Google is a gigantic company, but Google Fiber is relatively small compared to the other ISPs that were competing in the market, and they were trying to get access to the fiber line so that they could bring their service to consumers. But they own the power lines. They also own the municipalities that own the power lines, or when I say power lines, I'm saying fiber lines, the physical infrastructure. And so Google Fiber, it was costing them a fortune in court cases and zoning restrictions and all the red tape they were having to get through to try and get their service running. And it's because of ISPs own the fiber line, they own the municipalities, so they're not going to let competition in there, even though under Title II classification, they're required to.
Hell, they won't even let cities make their own internet.
I know. And there are cities that are popping up, and this is something that should happen. But the entirety of the Title II classification and everything that was happening in 2015 basically was establishing that the physical infrastructure is a public good, a public utility, and a natural monopoly existed on them because of the high cost to enter the market. It cost billions of dollars to lay fiber. So you can't lay fiber if you're an ISP trying to compete in the market, and you have cartel-like behavior between ISPs, the major ones, Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, where they don't compete in given areas, or if they do, they tend to be one or two to kind of stay out of the way.
Carve up the landscape.
Exactly.
I mean, you got cable companies that do that. It's the same concept.
It is. And they can do that stuff because you can't compete in a market without high capital expenditure, so it's a natural monopoly. And that happens in power companies too, and so there's heavy government regulation in those markets, and forcing people to the power delivery services are allowed to use the public utility or semi-private. You have Texas, New Mexico Power or Encore are the power delivery companies in the area, and you have to pay a fee to use it, but you can. But these fiber lines that are owned by ISPs, or the last mile is really what it is, because the primary fibers are owned by the backbone of the internet, as it's called, which are the main fiber lines that run between population centers. So they're kind of like interstate highways. Connections are owned by like 2 or 3 like really fucking large companies.
Yep.
But they're not the ones that are, basically they don't care. They have their fiber lines, they charge their prices, they're good. It's the last mile connections, which are AT&T, Comcast, Verizon. But the last mile connections is where the fuckery is happening and where these people are making a killing by, whatever. So net neutrality and the FCC fuckery that they announced over the Thanksgiving holiday. With the research that you've done on this, where you stand on it, what do you think?
I don't think it's all bad. There are, again, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation. I think there's a lot of causes out there that aren't as informed, and you can't really get a lot of information on one side versus the other. At least it's not readily available.
Yeah.
If you do a Google on net neutrality and you look, first off, if you try to get too deep in the subject matter, it goes back years.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that we have the same issues coming up in the same, kind of articles about the same situations.
The really crazy part is that we still have regulations and we're using laws that were meant for telephone.
Yeah, I think
trying to use it on the internet.
I think what needs to happen and what hasn't happened and should is that Congress needs to make a decision on this instead of just deferring it to the FCC, deferring it to these other companies that were not designed for
internet
like
regulation.
You said, they were not designed for technology that's advancing this quickly. We had phones, and that was about it like 50 years ago, and now all of a sudden we've got all these complicated, who has access to the fiber, who's paying for all these fibers that's being dropped down. It's something that there needs to be some kind of legislation for. It doesn't have to be specific, and it may need to be an ever-changing thing. But right now, we're in a place where we're having to revisit the same kind of issue every 4 years, because we have a Democratic FCC essentially, then we have
a Republican.
It's we're seeing, as controversial as Obamacare is.
Yeah,
it's lasting longer than some of these decisions that are being made on the internet.
Yeah, whenever you have these rulings that are made by appointed chairman of a federal enforcement office, that is some green hair on the TV there.
Jesus.
Also, what is up with the anyway? Whenever you have an appointed chairman making decisions on this stuff, thank you. Making decisions about something, as soon as a different appointee gets put in that office, they can reverse the decision. It's the same thing with like presidential power in general. Anything that's coming through the executive branch is whatever your guy does, and Dan Carlin talks about this all the time, whatever your guy does, whenever somebody who doesn't agree with your guy comes into the office, he can undo it, which is something that Trump did like as soon as he got in there.
Right.
All those executive orders from Obama, gone. And he's almost making his presidency about Obama-era regulations and decisions and executive orders and stuff. And so, yeah, I agree. What we need is an act of Congress to make a law that protects internet rights. And in fact, I think they should establish a new bureau or commission or something along those lines. That's the Internet Regulatory Office.
Yeah,
something that you can stock with people who their whole focus is not government regulation, but understanding of technology, understanding how it impacts Americans, how it impacts business, how it impacts everything, and can make laws or regulations that fit the need of something that doesn't fit the same mold as phone companies or utilities. Or
if nothing else, I don't think whenever the individuals that put in Title II back in the day ever expected it to apply all the way down to the same situation. They couldn't have foreseen the internet in its current form, or I don't imagine they would have seen the same kind of issues we're running into with it. So I don't think it was intended to be ever encompassing for different industries, nor should it be. So yeah. I think that there should be kind of, I don't have the answer. Even though congressional folks on a single level, they may not say they're for net neutrality, I feel like it's still a pretty bipartisan thing.
Yeah.
And that there may be some ways for both sides to essentially win. But right now it seems like an everyday thing.
Yeah. And it's not a fight that's going to go away anytime soon. And I do agree with some of the sentiments from the, save the internet neutrality, or save the internet, protect net neutrality, the crusaders that are going on this topic. Like, there are definitely things that need to be considered, but also there are economic considerations that need to be taken into place. There's legal and financial investments that the ISPs have made that also need to be taken in consideration, because they're building their business off of this. And if you bring in, heavy-handed regulations, there is no reason for them to upgrade fiber lines if they're going to have to share it with other people.
I mean, that is one thing to point out, not that we're for any of this, is that the internet speeds and the availability of the internet, that has skyrocketed exponentially in the last decades.
But
no,
go ahead.
I was going to say, we have a couple transocean pipelines, fibers.
Yeah.
The infrastructure is not all there yet, and it needs to expand a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
and who's paying for that?
Yeah, and so that falls into the way that the telephone companies did it back in the day. Is it would cost a lot less money to run a telephone line to a new construction house in like suburbia or in a local area, because you just kind of tap into the main line to bring it out. But there was a charge that would go on your phone bill that would go towards like rural connections. Right. So there's some sort of fuckery that needs to happen with ISPs to do the same thing, where there's a, internet fiber line infrastructure charge that goes on everybody's bill, regardless of what you have, that goes towards some sort of public good in expanding fiber lines, because it's the whole discussion can be boiled down to a couple of different points, but one of the main ones is who owns the fiber lines and who owns the rights to them. And the access to the internet has become such a public good that you get into this point where it needs to be kind of a quasi-private versus public investment.
Right. And you've also got, if we're paying this money to our ISPs for the internet, and then they turn around and they charge, web developers and these websites to get quicker access to it, are they double dipping?
They are, but if they own the rights to the fiber lines, I mean, they're the owners of the infrastructure. Legally, they have the right to do that kind of stuff. But, free market would say, well, I don't want to deal with those guys because they're shitheads. I want to go with this other guy. But if there's no competition,
you can have DSL.
Exactly. Or, cell phone internet. You mentioned internet speed skyrocketing over the last 10 years, which is true. But the internet, and I don't have the exact numbers, but the U.S. falls behind many other developed countries in overall internet speeds or average internet speeds by a fair margin, and paying higher prices for slower internet, which is something that is just unacceptable in the day and age of, America being this economic superpower and the creator of the internet, debatable, the creator of the microchip, the computer. Like, we lead the world in a lot of technical innovations, and most things that get created that are technology based get used in America as a huge primary market. But internet in the U.S. is lagging behind, and it's because of anti-consumer and anti-competitive decisions and whatnot that are maximizing profits, and there needs to be regulation. Net neutrality is very important, but the answer, it's not as simple as keep the Title II classification or repeal it, which a lot of people are saying that it is, but it's deeper than that. It needs an act of Congress, and those are definitely a couple of things that I agree with Legit Pie on.
Right. It's it's just whether or not are we really going to hold these companies transparent?
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you can force that to where but all they have to do is put it in a 400-page document every time you sign up, and nobody's going to read that shit.
Yeah, I mean, so you have with Enron, you have companies, financial institutions that have to self-report and they get audited like crazy.
Yeah,
but that that's more towards not fucking out shareholders.
Yeah,
not your customers.
Yeah, like what was it just recently? The Transution or Equifax. Was it Equifax or Experian?
It was Equifax.
Equifax, with the fuckery that happened there, where they got hacked, and they're one of the three biggest credit unions. But I was trying to get like databases of people's information, and it got hacked for, what was it, like a year before they came out with it? It was a long time that they were just sitting on it and trying to figure it out what to do. In the meantime, a lot of higher-ups in Equifax executive teams started liquidating stock, which is something that the SEC needs to be doing some shit about, because that's some fuckery of the highest order. But you've got, how did we get on this?
Shareholders versus
consumers. Their consumers are crediting lenders and banks and stuff like that. Their customers are not the people that were affected by this. And if you looked at the numbers, 150 million data sets, 150 million people's data was stolen. Identity was stolen. Which, if you look at the credit-worthy population of the U.S., that's everybody. That's everybody between the ages of like 18 and 65. Everybody got it. So it's just this weird fucked up lottery where you're hoping you don't win and get your identity stolen, but it's out there.
Yep.
And was anything really done on that? But the point that I was getting at was they put up a website that you could see if your identity was stolen, which it most likely was, and you could sign up for a year of free identity theft protection that they offered. But at the end of it, if you read the fine print, you had to start paying for that service after a year. And if you signed up for the free service, you waived your rights to a class action lawsuit.
Nope.
That's the fuckery. That's the level of fuckery that ISPs will go to.
Yeah. It's hard. If you have these self-reporting transparency, where, yeah, this guy, sorry.
We got a guy who thinks he's an action star jumping on the counter.
Oh, he's got the kill shot up.
Two guys robbing a 7-Eleven in Dallas. Oh, this shit pisses me off though, because it's just corporate fuckery, and it's just a perfect microcosm to the problems in our country, where you've got these giant corporate lobbying machines that are buying politicians, and then politicians have to follow suit, and then the politicians are the ones making the laws that regulate the industry that paid to have them in office. And how is that not a conflict of interest?
How is that not bribing?
How is that not bribery? That's the Gordian knot of the problem in our country that Dan Carlin always talked about on Common Sense.
Yes.
Is literally that private interest can elect people and can directly influence the way that they vote. It's fuckery of the highest order. And I will not stand for such fuckery.
It's impacted by us just not voting too.
I want to drink. This discussion is getting me fired up.
Intermission for tequila.
No. We can't fail 48 hours in. We have to at least make it like a week.
We're not even 48 hours in.
Shut up. All right. So I had another quick note that I wanted to touch on real quick. Did you have a Game Boy when you were a kid?
I had both.
Game Boy and
Game Gear.
I fucking hate you.
My sister had the Game Boy though. The Game Boy was hers.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So nowadays, kids don't really have those. I mean, there's DSs out there, and you've got the Switch coming in. But the real thing that you see kids with is tablets and phones playing those games
and fucking iPads.
So the games we were able to play, and you had a Game Gear, so you got nice color and like 16-bit, even though the batteries only lasted like 3 hours.
I think we put batteries in them like 3 times. We were kind of poor. I say that we had a Game Gear, but as soon as my mother was aware that they made the AC/DC plug-in for it, that I'd never put batteries in again. I just had to be 3 feet away from a plug-in.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, go ahead.
But so Game Boys were simple gear, or Game Boys were simple style of games. They were like games back in the day. But you had the cartridge, you'd play the cartridge, and whether you got bored with it or not, like if you're on a road trip or something like that, like that's what you had.
Yeah.
And that was the extent. So you had, but now kids these days in something the same size have the entire world's knowledge and exposure to the entire world, and brings in a couple of things. One, I don't think kids are allowed to be bored anymore, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah. On the same note as that, they're not allowed to be bored, so they always have to, and I'm forgetting the word because I'm not drinking and my RAM is going nuts, but instant gratification.
Yeah.
Always.
And they say that our generation is the generation of instant gratification. Wait until kids these days, sound like an old curmudgeon, kids these days start growing up.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's going to have a negative impact on attention span. I think that's going to have a negative impact on creativity. I think, and it's going to have a negative impact on patience, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's going to be like, we have the influx of the ADHD, ADD. We're going to have like boredom anxiety disorder.
That's a good way to put it. Bad. Like people who are scared of being bored because the thoughts start creeping in.
Yep.
You're going to die one day. Oh my God, I can't take it.
So you got the Game Boy?
You got the Game Boy. And then the other point that I wanted to make on that is that also exposes our kids to a very like a almost predatory type thing.
So I'm glad you point that. I'm sorry if I interrupted.
No, go for it.
So my nephew I think he's 3.
Yep.
We were out somewhere. We were at Pizza Hut, and you know how they have those quarter machines? where you can buy stuff like stickers or tattoos.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old nephew is like, hey, I want this one. That's Pennywise. And it was a sticker of Pennywise from it. And so I was like, are you sure? Because your mother's going to kill me. He was adamant about it. So we put it in there. It's one of those where you get random whatever. And out comes Chucky. And he knew who Chucky was immediately. It's Chucky.
A 3-year-old?
A 3-year-old. So long story, fast forward, we get it to my sister. And she's like, why the fuck did you get this for my kid? And I was like, he's adamant. He really wanted Pennywise. He was really happy he got Chucky. And she's like, how do you know Chucky? And she's like, he's like, I watched it on the iPad. And she's, what? It was on YouTube. He speaks pretty well for a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
He didn't say that first. He said, but I didn't watch it alone. So he immediately snitched out his brothers. But yeah, so she's like, sure enough, I'll search on YouTube. There's like 40 minutes of clips of Chucky that had been viewed by this 3-year-old without her knowing.
That's that leads perfectly into something that I saw last week. It's called Elsagate, is what the internet was calling it, but it goes into the YouTube algorithm and how YouTube Kids is supposed to be a kid-friendly version of YouTube, where adult-themed stuff is supposed to be filtered out. Violence, sexuality, swearing, drugs,
right.
All that stuff is supposed to be filtered out. But people had figured out that there's a captive market in kids, and that they just hit next video, next video, and so they'll put tags in it that lead the algorithm to putting it into YouTube Kids, even though it's very mature subject matter. And
it's like eBay when you have the paintball guns that are dye, Eclipse, Smart Parts, all those misleading names in the title when you search.
Yeah, all those tags, and Craigslist too, where they'll just if you search for something, it'll have like a list of tags so that their shit pops up whenever you search for it. But they're doing it with kids, and some of these videos. There's a popular YouTuber that I watch, Philip DeFranco, does a daily news show. And he was talking about this, and he's always on about YouTube rights and shit like that. There's your fridge. It talks about YouTube rights and monetization and how creators make their money and all this other stuff. And he was like fucking furious about this because I think his kid probably got by it or something. But it's like Spider-Man and Elsa doing like a gangbang while like choking out Elsa's sister. Like these really, really mature and weird things happening, but they're all like targeted for kids. And these videos have like 8, 9, 10 million views.
Right.
And these channels have 8, 9, 10 million subscribers on them. And they're all kids.
Just preying on kids.
And ads are running on them. And YouTube hasn't demonetized them. Well, they have now because
we had to bring it up.
Yeah.
You see all the issues, and that's a whole other story, the issues with monetization and YouTube and how bad the system is with it right now. But if you're a content creator, that's the last fucking thing you want to see is these guys fucking it up for you.
Yeah. Predatory. I mean, it's child predators. It literally is. I mean, not in the same way that you call somebody a child predator, but
it's predation for sure.
Yeah, and it's preying on children. It's fucked. I couldn't believe that shit, but that shit doesn't happen with a Game Boy.
No, it doesn't.
I'm gonna go buy a fucking Game Boy Color if I ever have a kid, and that's what my kid's gonna play.
I'll find a Game Gear. I'm sure there's still some around.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, what's the first thing my sister did? Well, there goes the iPad.
Yeah,
and I agree with her. I think I'm gonna get them DSs. They already have DSs. They just
don't play them because you have the phone or the iPad. And my niece is the same way. She's had an iPad since she was like 3 or 4, and I was having a discussion with my brother about this. About some people think that whenever they have kids, they're not going to plug their kids in on an iPad, but it's like the TV was whenever we were growing up, or Game Boys or Game Gears, in that like parents would just set you in front of that, and it's like a babysitter so they can get shit done because they got their life to live too.
I love my nephews. I've been like that since day one. I'm not gonna be that kind of dude, and I don't have kids, and I'm not judging my sisters for doing this, but like after 3 hours with them, like just shut the fuck up and turn on the iPad.
Get on the fucking iPad and leave me the fuck alone. Yeah. It's the same way, and like as with all things, moderation is key.
Right.
And my niece is probably a little addicted to her iPad. The first thing she does in the morning is she has a bowl of Cheerios and sits down with an iPad and watches. I think she has like Netflix Kids or something that she watches. But she knows how to work all that stuff, and she's quiet when she's doing it. But maybe we're just kids these days and old curmudgeons. But I don't think that's healthy for development, and we're not going to find out.
And now they're kind of getting. I'm not going to say they're shoehorned, but they're in schools now and they're part of schools. And to me, it's kind of like the work from home bit.
Yeah.
Work from home is nice, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
When your Xbox is 10 feet away from you, or, there's dishes that are 20 feet away from you that need to be done, not everybody can just compartmentalize like that.
Yeah.
So when you have something like an iPad or a tablet where you have games close to or that you associate with games, I'm not sure if that's the same kind of mindset that kids can just separate.
I'm firmly convinced that I failed a lot of classes in college as soon as I realized that I could get internet on my phone.
Yeah. Or just texting. As soon as texting came around.
Well, see, I was doing all right with texting early on because I had texting in high school. I had texting a freshman year in college. It was when I got that first iPhone.
Oh, well,
that shit started going downhill.
Some of us didn't get iPhones till well into our college careers.
Well, I didn't get the first iPhone. I got the 3G, which was iPhone 2. The second iPhone, I think. But yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. But when I was back in my day, when I was in middle school and high school, we had Tetris on a calculator and we liked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe, if kids learn how to develop apps,
maybe
if you make it educational somehow, it's probably beneficial. But
and that being said, that's how these kids are growing up. We didn't grow up like that, so it's not natural to us. Yeah. So maybe these kids, if they do it as they're growing up, they're, it's like trying to learn Spanish as an adult versus growing up with it. It's just more fluid, and maybe that's how it works with kids, and maybe they can compartmentalize it better. Or, we'll see.
Does the availability of information make a generation smarter or dumber? That's the grand experiment that's happening with these devices and growing up.
I mean, I can't tell you a single person that I know their phone number, if that's relevant.
I know my mom and my sister's phone number. I used to know my dad's, but he got a new phone number, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, same.
But those were the last numbers that it was faster for me to dial them than it was to go through my menu and pull it up.
Oh, that's true.
That's why I knew it.
Min-maxing. I don't know. I remember back in the day when, I don't say back in the day, but in college when only a few of us were getting there with the smartphones. We would get in an argument, and it would have to be called like some kind of gauntlet, like, iPhone it
and drop it. When was the trip to Phoenix? Not the Vegas trip that y'all went on, but the one that I was on. Was that 08?
That had to be like 08 or 09.
So shortly after that is when I got my iPhone.
Okay.
Because I remember Clint trying to pull up PB Nation on my Blackjack, Samsung Blackjack.
Yeah, you had the Blackjack. I remember that.
Yeah. Yep. And I was like, what are you doing with that tiny little screen trying to pull up the internet?
Yep.
And you're killing my data plans, you son of a bitch.
Yep.
But he did it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with all that. But I do think that we're raising we're raising a generation that doesn't know how to be bored, and I think that's the biggest problem that's going to become from it. Or they're going to be turned into a bunch of little psycho killers by YouTube failing with their algorithm. Either
or the death of YouTube.
Or the death of YouTube, which I love. A lot of creators are going beyond the point of trying to, make a living on YouTube. They're trying to create alternatives to YouTube and trying to get them to catch that saturation point that they can charge ads on.
So I like, and might be hysterical to some people, I like Demo Ranch. Yeah, he's got 2 channels.
Yeah.
But he actually, he's not doing it seriously, but I think he's doing it as a proof of concept. He's actually going to Twitch a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To live. Well, and they have video archives on Twitch too, right?
Yeah. That was his worry, was that they were going to not only demonetize, because he had been demonetized a couple times, but that he was going to lose everything. So he was like, okay, I'll just start archiving it here too.
There you go.
But
that's actually a pretty smart idea. And, you know, eventually if we get more than 2 people that listen to each of these podcasts, we can put up a webcam and live stream to Twitch too.
yeah, you know, the thought was that we would do that first. That would be our calling card.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Other things got in the way.
I mean, I think our one subscriber / listener has watched us on Twitch too.
Yeah. Man, that was so disheartening after Drunk Raids.
Yeah.
Whenever I was like, I got a subscriber that I don't know. Somebody randomly watching us play Destiny subscribed to me, and I have a subscriber.
I kind of did the math. I was like, and I didn't want to tell you. I was like, well, there were 6 of us, maybe even 7 that other guys in the party. I know I'm already following, so odds are that it's probably one of us.
But I mean, I got an email. I got an email notification that said, you have a new follower. And I was like, oh my God, somebody subscribed to me. And it turns out it was somebody else from our clan.
In the game with us the entire time.
Yeah. But that was disheartening. One day.
Someday.
Someday. Which actually leads into something I wanted to talk to you about. I guess it may not be something to use on a podcast, but maybe if somebody's listening to this ever wants to start a podcast. Did you know that you don't actually host podcasts with iTunes? You don't host it with iTunes?
Run me through it.
So you have to set up a website or use some sort of podcast hosting service that is the repository for your podcast. And then you create what's called an RSS feed, which is like a script.
Yeah.
And then send that to iTunes, and then iTunes hosts everything that way.
So we can't like put it up on the GeoCities or something?
So I think we need a Squarespace.
Okay. We can do that.
We need a website. Because I don't want to have to pay for or use a free-to-use site, whatever, to put our podcast on whenever we could do the same thing and host our own website.
Okay.
So for the time being, these are going to be YouTube exclusives. Shout out.
Oh, shit. I didn't think about that. We've been talking shit about YouTube the whole time.
Well, it's not like our videos are monetized.
Yet.
How crazy would it be, like, there would be a real funny service if it was a viral a day, like, website.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, everyone subscribes to this. It's kind of like the Make a Millionaire subreddit, where you just have a repository of people that are going to watch a video a day. But if you get like a saturation point or a critical mass of it, then you can make a trending video every day. And it just takes, 2 to 3 minutes out of everyone who's subscribed to the service's day.
Yeah.
But then you also, as part of the service, can put one of your videos up to become a viral hit.
There was that website where you could watch one random of
my
all the YouTube videos.
I loved that so much.
There were some good ones. Most of them were in Russian.
Yeah, it was a service that, so there's no actual way on YouTube to just click random video, but all of that information is out there, and somebody built a script so that you could just hit play and it would show a random YouTube video, and you can hit next and it would show a random YouTube video from all across the world. Doesn't matter where it was from, doesn't matter how many hits it had or how old it was.
Convinced 40% of YouTube is Minecraft at this point.
It was incredible. It was crazy. But yeah, something like that, but instead it shows everybody. You'd have to get buy-in from the people who subscribe to it that they actually watch it to give you the views, but that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, hosting podcasts is not nearly as easy as one thought.
We'll work on it.
We will work on it.
If we double our listenership in the next month.
We'll invest in it.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last quick hit. Am I crazy in that I don't care about what I wear?
I'm sorry. I mean, I've already passed that. I'm there.
My bit was like, people, there is something to looking good.
Yeah.
But I wear the minimum required level to make myself look acceptable at work, and I have like 6-7 shirts.
I'd say below that because you wear flip-flops.
I don't wear flip-flops to work
Anymore.
My old company, there was a flip-flop and shorts day. But I wear jeans and a polo every day to work and like Vans skater shoes. And I will wear button down, slacks, and dress shoes if I'm meeting a customer or if the situation dictates it. But I really don't care what I look like.
I don't know.
And like in general, my life, I'm a jeans and V-neck.
If I may say something, that's gonna come off kind of rough. I cared about it whenever we lived together, like back a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
because I was relatively in shape, and I thought that dressing up made a difference as far as how well you looked. We're kind of not in shape,
definitely,
and so everything kind of nothing really fits well, nothing really looks great.
So you think it's like a body pride kind of thing?
That, and I don't know. I think maybe we're just getting older, and we're just the fuckets are expanding.
This is the most neckbeard thing that I've ever said, but Albert Einstein wore the same clothes every day and never changed his wardrobe because it freed up brain power for other things.
I'm not gonna lie, like I've seriously like priced it out and looked at it where if I bought like 7 pairs of pants of the same style and 10 black polos, if I could do it without the negative repercussions of the people in the workplace being like, what the fuck is up with this guy? He's a serial killer.
Serial killers wearing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Well, that's why, I mean, that's almost exactly what I do. So I get my shirts for free because my dad always brings me fucking golf shirts from the places he visits. And I wear, every year, I buy like 2 pairs of jeans and like 5 of the same black V-neck, re-up on underwear and socks, and that's like my clothing expenditure for the year.
Yeah. There for a while, I was trying to buy like a new shirt every month and maybe a new pair of pants or 2, just so that I could keep things different.
Yeah, keep them fresh.
But we're also, and this is another semi-positive thing, is we're trying to lose some weight, and you don't want to throw a lot of money on clothes because you want to be changing sizes.
I have pairs of jeans from like 5 years ago where I thought I was going to get smaller.
I did both. Like I had those skinny ones and I threw them away because I was like, I'm never going to wear those again.
Yeah.
And then I lost some weight and I couldn't fit in those. So I bought new jeans. But at the same time, I threw away the fat jeans and then I got fat and I was like, I already threw those away too.
I had it happen. A guy from work is buying some customized North Face jackets.
Oh, yeah.
And he was asking me what size. And I was like, well, right now, probably an XL, but I want to lose weight, so give me an L.
I've done that too. And I always end up regretting it. Like, you motherfucker, you're never going to be a medium.
But I also, I think I look worse in baggy clothes. Like, I think I look trashy. I don't think I look as professional. And so I wear things that are probably too tight for me.
Yeah. I do the opposite.
Jeans, I need them to be loose, but when it comes to shirts, I generally buy them tighter than they probably should be.
I do the opposite. I'm like, I don't want to wear too tight of a shirt, so I'll just make it baggy. And
Fair enough. But yeah, I don't invest in clothes. Maybe if we do end up losing weight, I'll actually care if I like start looking good. But I mean, there is something to a classy dressed man does look good.
Yeah. That being said, like 5 pairs of pants that you wear besides dress pants on a regular basis, like I don't think you should own more than that.
I have a pair of khakis, a pair of jeans, and 2 pairs of dress pants that I wear on a regular basis.
There you go.
And then shorts, which I need to re-up my shorts.
No cargo pockets.
No, I gave up cargo pockets a while ago. When I graduated from Old Navy to Kohl's.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we're classy here.
My wife is a very fashion aware person. She is beautiful and loves to dress and wear some nice stuff.
I'm surprised she hasn't thrown away all your flip flops.
She gives me the most shit about my wardrobe. Yeah. She doesn't try and dress me all the time. There's a couple of situations where she's like, "You're not fucking wearing that. You're wearing this." She's okay with flip flops, even though she does comment whenever I wear them when it's cold. But her primary complaint is that I shop at Kohl's. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to Kohl's. I'm going to get a re-up. You want anything?" She's like, "No."
Yeah, it's a step up. I don't know.
Love you, wife.
Yeah, guys' clothes are starting to get like that point where women are, or the quality sucks in almost everything, so you got to spend money.
Yeah.
It's like something you don't have to deal with haircuts now.
Yep. No haircuts, although I probably spend more on razors than most people.
Well, yeah, that's fair. I probably spend like $30 a year on razors.
How much do you spend on hair product?
I don't use... never mind. That's another conversation.
Top deck.
Yeah.
Knife out. All right. That's probably a good spot. Good spot to stop.
and wrap this one up. Any closing thoughts?
That as long as we just bullshit our way through everything instead of trying to act smart while drunk, that was a little bit easier.
It was. The discussions about net neutrality definitely, because we were saying stuff and weren't 100% confident, and I was saying stuff. Sorry, not we. No. I was saying stuff that I wasn't 100% confident is accurate or true, and so I was getting caught up. But I do think it's not too bad doing this sober.
Yeah, we'll see. Next week we'll actually try to prepare. We won't have a holiday to go through.
Carry your notebook.
I'll carry my notebook.
Carry your notebook. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm JT.
I am D.
Have a good one. See you next time.
Bye.